All right, guys, we're live. We are here talking today about a topic that is so important, and that is dog food. Right? What we feed our dogs, it's a passion of mine. It's something I've really struggled with for many, many years, and it's something I take really seriously. I mean, there's a couple things. One is when you become a responsible pet owner, your job really is to make your dog safe. So you want to keep your dog on a leash, you want to keep your dog healthy and vetted, and you want to train your dog. The most important other part of that component is what you feed your dog, because your dog can't feed itself. And that's a really, really important piece that people tend to overlook. They think, well, you know, I'm exercising the dog, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And even something as rudimentary, as simple as water, is critical for your dog. Janet and I have a friend. It's actually Janet's friend, it's not my friend, who we went to this person's house, I'm not gonna say him or her, and we looked in the water bowl, and the water bowl had like old water with green algae growing in it. And I shook my head, I couldn't believe it, and Janet couldn't believe it, because we're such sticklers. I mean, our dogs, I would say more than 80% of the time get filtered water. I have a British Berkey filter, like I'm in New York. I always filter the water. Speaking of New York, I see Anthony, you're in the room. I was saying filter, like a filter. Almost like a gefilte fish. It could have been a little Yiddish thing, but it's not. So the dogs get filtered water, they get the best foods, they get the best health care and all that stuff. Now, I will, full disclosure, I'll tell you, I'm very, very, very lucky and very, very blessed. I have enough money to do these things for my dog. And I understand not everybody has that lifestyle, and you guys are doing your very, very, very best with your dog. So I'm not here to lecture you. I'm not here to tell you I'm better than you, because I'm not. I'm better at you than some things, I'm just kidding. But I'm not better than you because I feed my dogs better, but I want to help you do better things and make better decisions for your dogs, which is why the YouTube channel exists, which is why the membership section exists, the podcast exists, and a lot of these things are free. Remember, a lot of people have said in the past how much information I do give away for free, and that's really important to me. Yes, there's a membership fee for the membership section, but if you cannot afford that, the YouTube channel still has an amazing amount. I guarantee you there's more free information on my YouTube channel than paid information on most every other dog site, right? Dog membership section. So today we're talking about food. I'm kind of got a different setup today. So my camera is right here in front of me. I'm just going to tell you. Now my computer screen is here. So I would normally look over to this side to look at things, but today I've got my screen down here. So you might see me looking and bouncing my eyeballs all over the room, and Janet's sitting right over there, my faithful love and helper and companion, who I can't really do these things without. So if I look down like this, see Donald DJ just said, J Pale Blue, will you please talk Mr. Robert and doing all about dog fights, please. I just saw yours, Donald, and it was a very nice message you sent me too, by the way, so I appreciate that. But today we're only going to focus on dog food. That's all I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to put some things on the screen here and there that will kind of just get us started and get us kind of going. Janet's already giving me pictures. And pictures, when I say pictures, it's on her phone. It's a picture of the comment. It says here, Robert and Jan, I know you use cheese for treat rewards. Do you suggest and vegetables for reward treats? So let me get into questions in a minute. And if you see, here's a simple rule of thumb. If you see me doing something, it's probably the right thing to do, right? Unless I give a disclosure that I don't believe in it, it's probably something I do. So if I give my dogs cheese, it's because I think it's a good thing to do. If you see me feeding my dog something, it's a good thing to do. And that's really, really important. So before I get started, I want to show you here this picture here. And I'm going to put these up on the screen, and then I don't know if that's going to work. Let me see. I'm trying it here. I don't think it's going to work this way. So I'm going to have to put this back here. So just bear with me, guys. I am a work in progress, as you know. Take a look at this picture here. So here's me preparing Goofy's food. And this is something that I do every so many days. So Goofy is on a completely raw ketogenic diet right now. And in fact, all our dogs are. Janet gives a little kibble, when we're doing agility like we were doing today and such. But that's really kind of what Goofy gets to eat here. So that's ingredients like beef. And again, I use grass-fed, grass-finished beef. Same with organ meat, which is liver. I do heart, which is another muscle meat. People consider it an organ meat. It's considered a muscle meat. And broccoli, spinach, sardines, no grains. I don't put grains in. But I'm going to talk about the grain-free issue as well. But that's kind of what Goofy gets to eat on a regular basis with me. That's kind of our routine. Here's another picture of it, and this is kind of a different angle, and you see Goofy kind of chiming in here, really trying to get to the food. So that's, and isn't that fancy how I could just put that up on the screen? Don't you love that? I think that's pretty cool. So what I want to focus on today here is really why this is so important. So dog food has only really been around less than 100 years, I would say, maybe right around 100 years, because before that, dogs were just fed scraps. People will argue that dogs live longer now. We bioengineer dogs, we can make them healthier, and I believe we can. I was just talking to a guy, I just met him. He runs a food company. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And he's saying dogs should live 30 years. Right? There's studies, I don't know if they're really certified studies, but studies that I've seen where certain foods can help cure cancers, or not cure cancers, actually that's a misstatement, I'm going to take that back. But these foods can help alleviate cancers a lot. So in other words, if a dog has cancer, they would go in and obviously operate out the tumor, radiate out the tumor, and then give this dog a specific diet. And you can Google this through the Keto Pet Foundation and see some of these studies that I think are pretty fascinating. And I'm going to have some people on who are into the keto diet, which is what I'm doing now. Not the only way to go with your dog, right? I think it's a very good way to go with your dog. And all that, those ingredients you saw, it's a lot of work. I mean, Janet laughs at me because I have a scale and I weigh vitamins to the milligram, right? So that means to the 100th of a gram, I'm weighing vitamins out. And I do that for 4 dogs, right? Bosman is on a kibble, which he's been on forever, called Petcurian. He's been on it for, I think, 15 years or so, Janet, am I right? About 15, 16 years. And he's done great on it. Now, there's dogs that will do great on Old Roy, right? There's one of the foods that has been mocked the most is Old Roy. But there's dogs who will live 10, 15 years on it, and dogs who are on a completely raw organic diet will die at 7 or 8 years old. And I talked about that with somebody, and they said, well, maybe those dogs who only lived 7 or 8 years on these raw organic diets would have died at 3 or 4 without that diet, right? So we don't know. In other words, there's no guarantee you feed your dog a great diet, they're going to live forever, because they could have other genetic predispositions that could be a problem with that. But shouldn't it be our goal to give our dogs the best that we can? And the key word there is the best we can. We can't go overboard, right? You can't, somebody normal means person can't go feeding the most organic food and this and that. You can't feed your dog better than you can feed yourself, but you can at least come kind of close. And if you have a really big family, it's really hard. I understand that. But I want to put the information out here so that those of you who can. And I think that's really important. Really quick thing to think about. When you're looking at dog food, here's a point that I always comes to my mind. If I look at a dog food on Chewy or Amazon or wherever it is, and I see a 65-pound bag of dog food, 65-pound bag of dog food, and that bag costs $65. And I divide 65 by 25, I come up with $2.60 a pound for that food. Think about this for a second. $2.60 a pound is what they're selling you the food for, and it has chicken and vegetables and vitamins and all these things. If that company is making a profit, which they're making a huge profit, right? Right now, if I go to the local grocery store, Kroger or Ralph's as we have it here in California, I'm paying about $1.99 for chicken. Now, granted, these companies are buying chicken much larger quantities, but are getting better prices. But how cheap can the ingredients be to get it to that price? It's just something to think about. And if you're paying less than that, I have a friend of mine who says, my God, it cost me, $100 for a 75 or 50 pound bag of food. Well, that's $2 a pound. And I don't know if you could eat for that. So you have to think about the ingredients that go into that food that you're going to give your dog. And they're going to be byproducts. I get that. I got no problem with that. So, when you talk about meals and byproducts and stuff like that, remember meal, the ideal term for meal is what's considered, I got it from here, and this is right off of Purina's website. Chicken meal is a rendered chicken meat that has been dried and ground up. It includes clean flesh, skin, and or accompanying bone. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. But remember, one of the issues I have, and I'm not naming any brands here, by the way. Unless I name a brand, I'm not naming a brand, okay? When you're buying the chicken that's going into dog food, it's often not the same chicken that's for human consumption, right? Human consumption chicken, I remember this when I was buying some meats years ago when I learned this. They said, oh, that meat at the slaughterhouse that was ready for the dogs gets charcoal poured on it so that they don't go and put it back for human consumption. So once it's designed or designated for dog food, they put it to the side. It's now not human consumption. So for example, in theory, human meat can't be a downed animal. Like if a cow is sick or it has some sickness or ailment or it dies in the field, that cow cannot be used for human consumption, right? The USDA won't allow that. But that cow can now be used if it was laying out in the field for a couple hours or a couple days and is starting to decay. That animal can be used in dog food, and it's a fair game. Watch a documentary called Pet Fooled. Janet and I watched it. It was recommended by our friend Mike. And a lot of it is over the top, right? But a lot of it is really good information. I mean, I find that with a lot of documentaries. I think a lot of documentaries obviously have an agenda when they start to make them. And I think, agendas are fine. That's why you make things. I mean, everybody has some kind of an agenda. But just think about what you're getting for your dog. Now, remember, a dog will take a bone and bury it until maggots are crawling all over it and it's decomposing, and then he'll eat it. That's not a bad thing, right? Dogs can eat decaying meat, but they will determine that, and that's something more of a wild dog thing. I don't recommend it. I don't like it. I don't want my dog eating that kind of food. I want my dog eating the freshest possible food because I don't know what's in it. An animal in the wild will generally eat another animal in the wild. If you go, if you've ever been to Africa, you see that they kill an animal or they scavenge off of the animal that was killed. It's as simple as that. Dogs tend to, because they're so ingrained in Western society, they tend to forage for food, and they'll end up in trash bins and stuff like that. And a lot of times those dogs get very, very, very sick. But that's a really, really important component to think about when we were looking at that. Now, if you want to look at some other, I'm going to put up a couple of ingredient lists here. So here's one, and this is from a company called, whoops, let me get rid of that here. This is a company called Blue, and you can look here, look at their ingredients. And first things first, remember, ingredients are always listed in the order of their ingredient. In other words, the most is going to be the first, the second most is the second, the third most is the third, and down the line. So here we go. I'm putting my glasses back on here. There we go, fifth of glasses, so I can read. And you'll see that in this food, for example, and this is Blue, deboned chicken meal, brown rice, barley, oatmeal, pea starch. And I'm going to talk, if somebody has to, you may have to remind me, but I'm going to talk about this whole idea of grain-free as well. Jan, if you can remind me to talk about that really briefly, I will. Remember, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a or anything, any kind of specialist. I'm a guy who loves his dog, who's done a lot of research, and I'm trying to help you think about making the right decisions. I've done some research into this, but again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian or anything like that. That's Blue, okay? Here's a brand, here's Eukanuba. And I'm not, again, criticizing, so I don't want to get sued or anything like that, but look at these ingredients here in Eukanuba. You've got chicken, and then you've got cornmeal, chicken byproduct meal, a natural source of chondroitin, chondroitin is very important, obviously. Whole grain sorghum, brewer's rice, dried beet pulp, then chicken flavored dried egg. But the first ingredients here, chicken is good, cornmeal. Corn is a horrible product for people and dogs, right? It's a filler. And let me tell you something for an example, and this is something that I go through when I eat. If I eat a piece of clean meat, chicken, fish, or steak, I'm gonna get nutrition from it. Now, of course, I still need vegetables because that's very healthy for you, but the filler, potatoes, corn, any kind of starches like that are something that just satiate you. They make you go, okay, I had it. Why do they put a burger on a bun and give you French fries? Because it's going to fill you up. If you just had a burger patty, it's a lot more expensive. So I get it. It's a business decision. I'm not faulting these companies for it, but I'm just giving you the information. Take a look at this. Here's Old Roy. Look at these ingredients. Look at the very first ingredient on this list. Ground whole grain corn. Dogs don't do corn, right? If you thought of a dog running through a farm, the dog would not go to the cornfield, right? He'd go kill a chicken. Then you've got meat and bone meal. By the way, if something says meat and bone meal, there's a really good chance it could be an animal that you might not know. It could be a dog. It could be rendered, and they've shown. I'm not saying this on Old Roy at all, but there have been studies in dog food where they have found rendered dogs. Right. So when dogs get killed in the animal shelter, their rendering goes somewhere. It gets shipped overseas to make makeup with. It gets used in feeds and stuff like that. It gets used in a lot of processes. It's not just. They don't get buried. There's not like a little doggy graveyard somewhere. Roadkill, that also goes to a rendering facility. Rendering facilities render these things through and make a byproduct with it. So if you're looking at a byproduct, it might just be something you shouldn't really want to feed your dog. And again, this is totally up to you. Here's a good product, Origin, right? And here's some decent ingredients. Deboned chicken, deboned turkey, Atlantic flounder, whole egg. So there's your first 4 ingredients. Really, really kind of nicely done. Not bad at all. Now, full disclosure, Janet has fed this food to Bozman for 15 years. And you'll see, deboned turkey, potato, flour. Maybe not the greatest thing, but Boz has done really well in this. Peas, apples, whole dried egg, pea fiber, tomatoes, potato, flaxseed. And there's full disclosure. Boz came from a shelter, 18 years old, no cancer, his blood work is perfect, the love of our life. I mean, we love Bozman more than anything. He's perfect. And the reason I never said to Janet, why don't we take him off of this, is because he's done so well, right? He's 18 years old. Take a look at this here. And again, this is a food I fed. A lot of these foods I have fed. I've not fed Old Roy, by the way. I have fed this food. This is Purina Pro Plan. Janet and I both fed this food. Salmon, barley, ground rice, canola meal. Okay, I take the canola meal. I'm not that big on it. It's a processed product, but salmon, barley. I don't have an issue with grains, right? I mean, and the grain issue is a whole another issue. When you look at DCM, Google DCM, you'll see that a lot of dogs have died of DCM, and DCM is caused oftentimes, as they say, because of grain-free food. Now, grain-free, it's not eliminating the grains that causes the problem with DCM. The problem is the addition of all this pea protein. Right? Pea protein is a protein that we can digest, but I think dogs have a much harder time with it. Here's a food I disagree with, and this is on a personal level. I don't like vegan dog food. I think it's nonsense to feed dogs vegan food. So I'm giving you this as an example. Here's the first ingredients. You want to talk about issues with DCM is dried peas, pea protein, brown rice, oatmeal, potato protein. Potatoes don't have protein, by the way. It's a processed way of getting protein out. Sorghum, canola oil, these are your ingredients you're feeding your dog. Then you get down here, and now you have some decent stuff. Quinoa, sunflower chips, salt. How about salt? And again, dogs need salt, but if it's this high on your list, it's not good. They add taurine because taurine is an amino acid in beef. Why would you add taurine if you can just give your dog beef? Now, down here, I would think, okay, carnitine, very good. Spinach, very good. Rosemary extract, very good. But these are the least of the ingredients on the list. So I would hope, even if you're, ethically a vegetarian or a vegan, that you would take into account not being selfish for your dog, because that's really a selfish position to say, well, I don't think it's ethically right to eat animals. And if you don't, that's cool. I don't care, right? I don't like the idea of an animal having to die for my meal, but I didn't invent the system. So I do eat. I was a vegetarian for, 10, 15 plus years. I don't feel any worse eating meat because I eat ethically sourced meat. Grass-fed, grass-finished, pasture-raised. I don't eat crap. Janet and I really are conscious of our diets. We're not these whacked out people who go to restaurants and say, is it grass-fed, grass-finished? I do. But that's who we are. But I'm going to show you this one product that, by the way, if you go to my website, robertcabral.com, on my products page, you're going to see that I like this product. And I'm going to show it to you here. This is called Visionary Pet Food. It's a freeze-dried food. They're little medallions. Goofy's going to go nuts here. But I just want to show you that how good food can be. Look at these ingredients for a second with me. Beef heart, broccoli, green beans, coconut oil, chia seeds, red cabbage, sunflower seeds, beef liver, and then you go into your vitamins: calcium carbonate, kelp powder, zinc, amino acid chelate, vitamin E. That's real food, right? That's real food. By the way, like I say, if you want to go to robertcabral.com, you want to sign up and get some of this. This is a total side note. This video is not sponsored by anybody. I should have asked Visionary Pet Food if they want to sponsor it. But it's something that's really good. And they also make, here's another product they have. This is a great product. Janet and I have fed this quite a bit. This is a frozen version of it. And here, again, look at the ingredients here. Beef heart, broccoli, green beans, coconut oil, chia seeds, red cabbage, sunflower seeds, beef. If I had my glasses on, I wouldn't be squinting so much. Essentially the same thing. Now, this ain't cheap, right? It's just not cheap, but it's available, right? It's available. So those are things you're going to want to consider when it comes time to feeding your dog, right? What do you feed him? Now, you really cannot just take some beef heart and beef and some chicken feet or whatever. And again, those byproducts that they talk about in the chicken meal, which when they're using, if somebody says to me they're rendering an entire chicken and they're going to feed it to the dog, I don't have a problem with that, right? The back, the organs, the brains, the eyes, the feet, the beaks and all that stuff. Because if a dog was going to eat a chicken, he would eat all that. And because of it being complete, it becomes more complete of a food. Because we're rendering out, we're withholding a lot of those products, the dog will be missing things like calcium. If a dog just eats beef or chicken or fish or whatever and doesn't get the bone of it, there's not enough calcium and stuff in the food. So we supplement that in with things like bone meal or seaweed calcium and stuff like that. Go look on my products page. You'll see the supplements and everything I suggest. A really important piece is that the food should be complete. So people say, well, how complete is anybody's food? It's usually not. But since we can kind of control our dog's diet, we can make it more complete, and you must add a supplement. There's a supplement a meal mix it's called. I put that in my dog's food. There's also through Earth Animal a product called Daily Raw, which is good. There's several good supplements, and look at the ingredients in the supplements like you would look at the ingredients in the dog food, and it'll help you make really good decisions. But feeding your dog is crucial, because without you, unless you live on a farm and the dog can go forage and have some vegetables and eat some grass, which again, I think vegetables are important for a dog. I think they're critical for a dog. But the meat is their primary necessity. And the reason that is, because people say, well, we don't need meat. Humans don't eat meat. Well, I beg to differ. But I'm not going to get on an ethical discussion of feeding and being a vegetarian or anything like that. I've been to, I talk about it all the time, I've been to Africa. I've watched a lion, a pride of lions, devour an entire buffalo. Do I feel bad for the buffalo? Yeah. But that's nature. Nature is not kind. Nature just works. It just works. And if you want to judge it by its morale, it's not, right? Innocent people get killed, the hurricanes go through and wipe out children. I mean, it's perfect in its imperfection. But when you feed a dog, the dog needs a complete nutrition. So if the dog is not able to go out and eat a whole chicken and eat vegetables and find their ways, which instinctually I guarantee you a dog can figure it out really, really easily. But since they're living in your home, they can't, and you might just be feeding them, peanut butter and Cheetos for treats, and then hoping that the kibble you put down is sufficient. Do the best you can. That's all I can say to you, is just do the best you can. Do the best you can in training, do the best you can in diet, and do the best you can in care. And that's all you can do in this crazy world, right? It's a crazy, crazy world. And it's a crazy time we're living in now. It's a very angry and an accusatory time where people say, if you think this way, you're a this. If you think that way, you're a that. And if you don't do this for your dog, you're this. And if you do this, forget all that bull, right? It's all crap. Your job is to do the very, very best you can for yourself first and foremost. Put your own oxygen mask on first. Then take care of the person next to you, right? Sometimes that should involve being a little bit selfless and doing something nice for your husband or wife, your lover, your child, your dog, but you must take care of yourself first. If you don't take care of yourself first, then you're not going to help. Anthony said something. I just peeked down. I saw Anthony's comment here. What does it say? Yeah, okay, so yeah, there you go, Anthony. And Lucy Pet Food, we fed that for a while, and if your dog gets along great on it, I think it's I think it's fine. Be careful putting too many supplements in. A lot of times when dogs have allergies, adding supplements to it in other words, what I heard a really smart guy say the other day, when it comes to food, feeding, it's usually more of taking away, I just bit my tongue, taking away than adding in. So you'll want to strip out more and more and more of the things. So you might consider, if you're going to do a raw diet, Anthony, is find the basics like beef and vegetable, or chicken and vegetable. And chicken is a product that's in a lot, even beef product foods have a chicken component because it's a cheap protein that they get. But email me. I've got some ideas for you. We'll talk on this, or just shoot me a text. And not everybody else can do that, by the way. I know Anthony for a long time. He's trained with me and stuff. So that's really important. So I'll take some questions. Now I've been rambling on for about a half hour. Janet's probably got her phone full of people with questions, which is cool. If you guys, by the way, would go and check out the podcast, and if you're interested in my membership section at robertcabral.com, that would be really cool, because that does support the podcast. And it supports the YouTube channel and everything else. We got some questions yet? No? I already covered some. I'm actually doing pretty well, Janet says. Okay, this one says, for Aussie Roo, are there actually any good dog food brands, or are they all like cardboard? And that's an excellent question. There's a lot of really good dog food brands, but they're not cheap and they're not easily accessible. I mean, in my opinion, right now, the visionary, and this is actually a dog food. This is Goofy's right here. He's like crazy for this stuff. It's raw and freeze dried. Food. You're also going to need to be aware that when you change your dog to a raw diet, it ain't pretty, right? You're going to get a lot of runny poops and stuff like that because your dog is not ready for it. And especially when you take your dog off of foods that have a lot of starchy things in them, like potatoes and peas and stuff like that. When you start giving your dog, and Goofy has been on raw since he was born. When he was very, very, very young, I started him on raw, and I moved him to kibble for a while. Now he's back just on raw. But if a dog has never had raw food and has always had fillers like rice, oatmeal, and things like that in their food, and suddenly you're just giving him vegetables and meats, it takes the dogs a little bit of time to adjust to that. Okay, old sap, Charlie, that's Charlie over here. How much is the right amount of for certain breed, age, weight, activity level? That's my big dilemma. You need to Google that because it's going to be a percentage of their body weight. I'll give you a great example. Maya weighs 60-something pounds, 60 to 65 pounds. Maya gets 2 9-ounce Maya burgers every day. So she's getting about 18 ounces of food a day. That's it. Goofy gets about 24 to 26 ounces because his metabolism is faster. There's going to be a basic number, and you can use that basic number like a pound or two for a 60-pound dog, or I should say a pound or so for a 60-pound dog, but you're going to need to adjust that, and you always need to watch your dog's weight. Just like a person, some people can eat a lot of food and not get heavy, where some people just gain weight faster. Same thing with dogs. And you want to really, really watch that. That's critical. It's very specific. It's very, very individual. And I would highly suggest that you consider keeping your dogs lower in weight than higher in weight. Because if you have dogs most dogs I see, Jan and I went and met this person who did a session with us, and the dog had to be, it was a Labrador Retriever, had to be 20 pounds overweight? Yeah, the dog was like 90 pounds and should have been like 60, 65 pounds. And first thing I said is, you got to take some weight off the dog. And they said, well, who was it, the vet or the breeder?
The vet said the dog was overweight at 72.
Oh, okay, so the vet said the dog was overweight at 72 pounds, but the breeder and lab breeders, yeah, and then he gained after that. He was up at 90. And, they were saying, well, he really loves his food. Of course he loves his food, But obesity is a problem in people and in dogs. So that's really, really important. Okay, there's a question here for, my dog is 12-year-old. She is on fresh food, grain-free diet, great for digestion, not so great for allergies. Is it too late to switch her to raw food diet? Is it okay to do with a senior dog? Well, I mean, if the dog is totally healthy, but you're having allergy issues, you need to remove those ingredients, because allergies is an inflammation, right? It's a histamine. It's a reaction. It's the body's reaction to a foreign body that it doesn't like, and it's trying to get rid of it. So I would consider at least getting the ingredients out that are there. Remember, the difference between raw and cooked is not that big a deal, except the common statement that cooking burns off the nutrients. I think that's a mixed bag. I don't know. I had a pressure cooker, and I used to cook a whole chicken with vegetables and everything in a pressure cooker for like 2 hours, and then everything was in it. I mean, delete the organs and everything in the chicken. I put a couple of chicken backs in, so there's a good amount of calcium for the bone. And the bone, I would always check I would take the entire pot of chicken, and I would run my hands in it and make sure every bone was pulverized, because cooked chicken bones can be a very, very, very bad thing for your dog. But I mean, if I saw a dog that was having a really hard time, like Jimmy had things with allergies, and Janet said she'd had him on raw diet before we got back together, and he did horribly. He had like these, what were those called? He had like a little staph infection, and it was an allergic reaction to the food. And then she put him on a food called Ultimino, which is veterinary allergist recommended. It's like $100 a bag. And what they do in a laboratory, they take chicken feathers and extract protein from it, which is crazy. It's like a total Frankenstein experiment. And slowly, when Janet saw me feeding Goofy and Maya the raw food, she said, well, put a little bit of that in for Jimmy and Dwayne. And then I kept doing it. And then at one point, without her really knowing it, I had completely eliminated Jimmy's kibble. And she said, God, Jimmy looks so good. Like Jimmy's coat now, if you look at him, Jimmy's 10 years old. He is the most beautiful Labrador retriever you will ever see in your life. His coat looks like a mink. I'm not saying a mink coat, that's a dead mink, but a mink. It's just, it glistens, it's blue in the light. And it's soft, it's the softest fur ever. And before, I remember about a year or so ago, his fur was a little prickly, right? It was a little hard and he didn't have, but since he's been on a raw keto diet, every once in a while, like we'll see he had like some runny poops a couple of weeks ago, but it would just started getting really hot. He'd been doing agility. Mom was giving him some treats and stuff. So he could have had an upset stomach, but again, it's nothing really to overly worry about because it is what it is, right? I mean, you're gonna have an upset stomach. It doesn't mean right away what you're doing is wrong. So, let's see. I kind of go to new comment. Huh? Oh, Janet's got another comment for me. I hope you guys are enjoying this video. I think this is a really, really important topic. I haven't touched on it before, and I wanted to have enough information on it for you. So make sure you guys give this thumbs up too, because we've got 254 viewers and only 84 thumbs up. And I know you need to X out to do that. But anyway, I always hear Milena. I always hear people say, ask your vet. Question, would you trust a vet who doesn't own a dog? Yeah, I would actually, because I wouldn't trust a doctor who's out of shape, but I would trust a vet who doesn't own a dog because maybe he just doesn't have time for a dog. Maybe that's a responsible thing to do. I mean, you know for sure one thing, that if he's a vet, he went to vet school. That being said, vet school, this is talked about in Pet Food, vet school does not really give veterinarians a complete what's the word I'm looking for? Information on food, right? They're not nutritionists. Now, if a vet is a nutritionist, then they have completed more. But I wouldn't trust a vet. I mean, a lot of vets will say, don't give your dog raw food. It's extremely dangerous. And by the way, before I even take this next question, here's the thing. People will tell you raw food is very, very dangerous. There's salmonella and there's this and there's that. Now there's been, again, I'm not a vet. I'm giving you my take on it, my experience on it. And I've read in several places that a dog can have salmonella on their tongue and on their butt, but it doesn't affect them. Unless they're very weakened immune system or something like that, or they're very, very old or sick, then obviously anything can trigger them. But vets are not going to really love raw food because it's not something they're familiar with. To their own, there's plenty of vets, like my vet, Dr. Lisa, said, oh, I think raw food's great, but she's more free thinking. Other vets will say, oh, I've had dogs die from a raw diet. I'll be honest with you, I've heard of dogs dying from a kibble diet as well, because kibble gets recalled all the time. I personally have never heard of a dog getting sick from a raw diet. That's my personal thing I can tell you, and I know a lot of dogs are on raw diets. Okay, Donald, what's your favorite dog kibble? Well, right now, again, if you ask me this, I'm constantly evolving in that question. Right now, it's going to be this visionary stuff because like I said, I go by the ingredients. Forget the brand name. But ingredients like beef heart, broccoli, green beans, coconut oil, chia seeds. This is just, I want to see where the crap is in the food, right? And, hang on a second. I almost lost you guys. I'm trying to pull the wire here so Goofy doesn't, I hope I didn't lose you guys. Just look at the best ingredients. What do you think of Kirkland dog food at Costco? Okay, so that's a great question. And most people will tell you that of all the foods, price-wise, and then my friend Danny Craig, who's a great Schutzen trainer, told me what he feeds his dog is chicken leg quarters at night and Costco Kirkland food for a kibble. And he was doing it because he couldn't keep the calories, the weight on his dogs with just raw. So a lot of people like it, right? It's probably, for the price, probably one of the better foods you can get. A lot of people have said that. Again, to me, it's still a processed food, but there's my opinion. If I had to feed one and I needed to get something inexpensive, I probably would go for something like that, yeah. James says, any ingredients that would help with separation anxiety or increase separation anxiety? Well, I don't think any ingredient's going to help with it, because it's, unless your dog, think about a kid who's just eating fast food, just eating crap all the time. It would spike your sugars, right? And anybody who's just wired on junk food and sugars is going to be a person who's not really functioning clearly. So if you're feeding foods that are super high in carbohydrates and super high in sugars, just like if you were eating those foods, it could make you a little bit more loopy. It could keep you from being calm. There's a lack of vitamins can add to that, but I would really try to focus on more of, a lot of people do like CBD oils and stuff like that. I'm not going into supplements today, but those kind of things will help a dog relax more. Do you use Nupro supplements? How do you know if your dog needs supplementation? The kibble itself is touted as complete nutrition. Yeah, so most every kibble you buy is going to be met by what's called an AAFCO standard. So the dog, it has to meet certain nutritional requirements to get this stamp. Now, the stamp is not required. It's not like a USDA stamp. Any food can be sold without that certification, but if it has that, it meets a complete diet, which would be complete supplements. I have used the Nupro in the past. I also used a product called, God, what was that product called? If you grab it, Jan, it's in the refrigerator there. Oh, never mind. It's called Spunky Level 2, and it's a really, really good supplement I use. It's in the back, way in the back on the lower shelf. I don't think we need it, but yeah, that's where it would be if you see it. It's like a silver bag. Janet's looking in the refrigerator, and all the dogs are going to run out there. Yeah. This was a really good supplement that I used for a long time. And you'll see that in my house, I've got a lot of different stuff. So this is a product that I fed for a long time. I don't know if you can see it here. It's called Spunky Level 2. Very, very expensive, $112. But it's a really, really good supplement. Microbes, enzymes, MSM, hyaluronic acid, glucosamine, vitamin C, vitamin E, yucca, and kelp meal. It had probiotics, digestive enzymes, and joint supplement for your senior or working dog. And if you got a working dog, which all our dogs are very high drive working dogs, they require more supplementation because they're burning through this. If you saw Dwayne today at his agility seminar we went to, we had a blast, by the way. You should have seen me running Jimmy. I'm going to post some videos. I was a stud, total stud. And Jimmy was like a rock star. I'm going to post some videos so you can see. All right, Anthony, you said, Robert, can you tell how you got your ratio down of raw meat, organs, and bone? Yeah, you know what? I had somebody kind of concoct it for me. So I had an idea of what I was doing between feeding, I would here's a simple list of ingredients that I did. And that was beef, and this was grass-fed, grass-finished beef 80-20, because you need enough fats. If you're going to take out the carbohydrates, your dog needs to get his energy source from somewhere, and that's going to come from fats. And that's a more natural way a dog will get their energy source. If you think about a lion or a hyena or any animal in the wild, they don't get carbohydrates, right? There's no source of pasta or oatmeal or corn or anything like that in the wild for an animal, for a lion or a dog or whatever. So what they do is the energy source comes from fat, which is a ketogenic idea. It takes a while to switch your dog over to ketogenic. You'll notice their blood sugars get very low. And if they were eating starches and had low blood sugar, you'd have a really sick dog. But if they're not getting it, they're getting their energy from fats, and their blood sugars are low, you have a very healthy dog. But the simple ingredients I did were 80-20 ground beef, sardines, broccoli, and what else did I put in there, honey? Do you remember? Sardines, broccoli,
Spinach.
beef, spinach, and then Yeah, I would put like heart and liver in too. But anyway, so those were the basic ingredients that the dogs would get. So, what is this here? Adrian says, 45 years ago, a zoo vet told me to do that. Man, you're old. I am old, Adrian. I'm young. I'm young at heart. But yeah, 80-20, the whole idea of this very lean meat is not a great idea, by the way. You know, people are trying to take fats out. Fats are not the dangerous thing. In our society where we're so concerned with looks and everything like that, healthy fats, omegas are healthy fat. You need those fats, right? Your body needs fats. Look at Eskimos. They eat blubber and fat. I'm not a dietitian, but I'm telling you, I'm in pretty darn good shape for my age. Okay, the one in the middle? Okay. This says, this is from, I can't make it, Abhishek. Is it good to give oil in the diet? My dog has a lot of hair fall. Could you please suggest, sir? Yes, this is what I'm talking about. These are your omegas, right? Your 3, 6s, and 9s. You can get them through oils like hemp oil, coconut oil, and stuff like that. But the healthiest source of omegas are going to be from your fishes, your fish oils, salmon oil, krill oil, any cod liver oil. Those oils are essential. Those are the healthy fats that support the growth of hair and skin and bone and everything like that. Your body needs those fats. That's really important. There's 2 questions here, okay? Do you use Cosequin? So I used Dasaquin for a while there, and Dasaquin has the MSM, the glucosamine chondroitin. But if your dog has a diet that's free of inflammatories, such as sugars or starches, stuff like that, I've noticed that Goofy and Maya haven't needed it at all. I have not done it at all. Been on what? Yeah, and Boz, now Boz is a different diet, but Boz has been on Dasaquin for 15 we haven't given him Dasaquin for a long time, just so you know, we forgot. We forgot. But it's not a bad thing. I would not, if you have a regular diet, please keep your dog on Dasaquin. I think Dasaquin's good. I don't have a problem with it. And then the other question was out to My Coco Lab. What do you think about Royal Canin? We feed our German Shepherd and Yellow Lab that. If you're feeding your dog that food and you have good success with it, I don't want to be the guy coming in here and telling you to stop doing it, right? I don't feed Royal Canin. I would, again, look at the ingredients. That's the number one thing I look at. I don't like foods that come from vets because I generally think that the vets are selling them, and we think vets are demigods because they save lives, and then we're going to listen to that. We're going to feed the dogs this. It's not. Vets aren't always very healthy people either, right? I'm not saying that as a slam on vets. But I would look at a vet who's in shape, who works out and who does this and who's aware of their own diet and maybe take their advice for diet, just like a doctor, right? My doctor is not somebody I would go to for nutritional advice. I would go to some of my friends who are athletes and ask what they're eating, because their diet is probably a lot better than that of my doctor. This question goes out to what one needs. How about olive oil? I would research olive oil a little bit more. Olive oil is still a good source of fatty oil and a necessary oil for dogs. But because, again, go back to the root of it. A dog is a dog. Would a dog be able to access olive oil in the wild? Is it something that would be a product or a substance that the dog could get naturally, right? So I would say no, right? And I think in this sense that nature kind of has engineered itself pretty perfectly, that dogs eat what they eat because, like, people always try to stop their dogs from eating grass, right? And if a dog is eating grass, he's either eating grass because he's missing something, or he wants to throw up, or he has an upset stomach. So when I see my dogs eating grass, I try to tell them, hey, don't eat that, and I'll give them something else to eat. But I'm making a mental note. They're eating grass because they're upset about something, or I didn't feed them enough. A lot of times, Jimmy or Goofy will have a little gurgling tummy because they haven't eaten. We fed them at different times and stuff, or they needed a little snack before bed. I used to give my Shar-Pei Silly and Goofy too early on a cookie before bedtime. But again, since I took Goofy off of carbohydrates and he's on a ketogenic diet, I don't do it. But there's plenty of little things you can just kind of give your dog. Like I give my dogs their thyroid medicine in coconut oil, and then of course Dwayne Mater and Jimmy Shimmer Glimmerman come in and they get a little coconut oil too. So, and coconut oil I use is always going to be virgin, extra virgin coconut oil. Okay, Sergeant Hunt says, I've heard that different breeds benefit better from different types of foods. Some breeds do better with birds, some better with lamb, beef, etc. What are your thoughts? I think that's very accurate. And the reason I think it's very accurate is because larger breeds should eat larger animal, right? Smaller breeds should eat smaller animals. If you think about like Bosman, he's a little dachshund. If he was going to be a wild dog, he wouldn't be pulling down a cow, because he would probably pull down a chipmunk or a rabbit or something like that. So yes, I do agree with that. But I'm talking in general, and this is where chicken is kind of like that across the road thing that everybody can feed their dog because it's cheap, it's accessible. But like Anthony was saying before, remember that if your dog has an allergy, chances are that it might be to a specific protein or a grain in their food. And that could very commonly be chicken or beef. I think it's more commonly going to be chicken, but it's really commonly going to be the grains and those ingredients that are in there in the dog's food. So be aware of that. It's not comfortable. If you had an allergy and you were always passing gas, it's not pleasant. Janet's just shaking your head. I don't have any food allergies. What did he just call Jimmy? I call Jimmy the Shimmer Glimmer Man, the shimmer of hope and love and understanding and compassion. All our dogs have like a host of names, right? You got to know that's an inside joke. So those of you, okay, it's only 257 of you, don't tell anybody else. All our dogs have multiple names. Goofy is the Goofensteiner, the Stubenstein, the Earthsteiner. Maya is Maya the Papaya, Maya the Flying Papaya. Jimmy is the Shimmer Glimmer Man, the Shimmer of Hope, the Shimmer of Love. Bosman is Bosenstein, Boswell Brown. There's so many different. Dwayne Mater is the Dwayne Mater. He started off as Dwayne Allman. That's how Janet picked his name to be Dwayne Allman. But it all goes south once I'm involved because it's going to be a host of different names. And now he's the Dwayne Mater, and very famously so. Okay, we got another one here. And this one says, my God, honey, this one's really small. Put the glasses back on. Okay, this is from Patrick. What do you think of lamb? Okay, so lamb can be a good food. Some people like it, some people don't. There are some amino acids that are different in lamb because lamb is a very young animal. It's obviously a baby sheep, so you have to think about that. And then the other question goes to Joan. Like if I was going to feed a food, I would probably go with a beef or a salmon. I like salmon because it's a fish. It's higher in omegas. I would probably go with that. Joan says, do you think it's important to rotate meats? I'm feeding my dog a raw turkey bar. But do you mean barf diet? But occasionally I try a different meat from that brand. So what I do when I have young dogs, all of my dogs have always eaten early on a variety of proteins: fish, lamb, chicken, beef, even venison, rabbit, because I wanted their body to be able to adjust better to different proteins. So some people like that, some people don't. It's kind of like kids. I mean, I think, now everybody's wearing a mask. Kids are inside playing Fortnite. There's zero risk these children ever getting outside and getting a little bit of dirt under their fingernails. When I grew up, we were outside from after school until it was dinner time, rolling around in the mud and the dirt, playing stickball, wrestling, riding our bikes, no helmets, no elbow pads, no knee pads, none of that, right? I think we grew up healthier that way. And I think dogs that are allowed to be dogs and that can run around and eat grass and dig up stuff and do these things are healthier dogs. And dogs that get different types of protein and eat healthy and naturally are healthier than putting them on these specific, diets where it's so engineered. Again, my diet for my dogs is really, really a good, basic, natural. I can look at every ingredient in that food and I can eat it. I can eat beef, I can eat sardines, I can eat broccoli, I can eat spinach, I can eat eggs. Oh, that's the other ingredient that I forgot to mention was the eggs, raw eggs, that goes in there. So I was doing beef, sardines, eggs, spinach, and broccoli, and then I add in as well. Goofy gets beef heart and beef liver, and Jimmy, Maya, and Dwayne get only beef liver. They don't get the beef heart because it's not in their diet. So, okay, Jan's got another question for me, and that question is, there's a lot of these questions. Suggestions for beef bones, is that the question? Yeah. Well, beef bones, here's something you want to think about with beef bones. First of all, a lot of people will feed oxtail, which is good, but it's a cartilage, and it's something that the dog can eat completely all the way through. If you're going to feed your dog beef bones, I would be super picky that, one, it's not cooked. Two, I always freeze the bone, and I always get the bone for my dogs, for the German Shepherds and Malinois, it's got to be the size of my fist, right? So that means that it's 4 fingers, and I've got big hands, so bear that in mind when you use your fist. But your dog shouldn't be able to swallow the bone, so don't give them small bones. I hate when I see small bones. Go to a butcher and tell them to cut the bone big. The bigger the bone, the better it is. Don't let them slice the bone, right? So that means if the bone this is the bone here, you can cut it this way, but don't cut it this way and break it open. They say, well, it's better because you can get the marrow out better. And they'll do it this way because for people, they'll broil or I think they broil the marrow, the bone, and then they can scoop it out and eat it easier. Your dog needs to work to get it out. When the bone is split, then more splintering can occur and the dog can hurt themselves. So think again, go back to the natural of the dog. If a dog finds a dog's leg, if a dog finds a cow's leg, chances are the bone is not split, and the dog will get the marrow out. Knuckle bones is another thing. The knuckle bone is the end of the bone, the end of the femur, where the dog can get the cartilage out. Okay, and I got to wrap this up. Yeah, I've only got 3 minutes. Can you believe how much Janet says? You talk like this all the time. I talk like this at night. I wake her up and say, honey, I just had a dream. Can I tell you about it? You guys really should have taken up a GoFundMe for Janet because she has to live with me. Okay, one more question. I've been noticing dog food brands lately have been advertising probiotics in their formulas. I haven't done much research and I'm curious with them. So they're talking a lot about probiotics and prebiotics and how it helps the digestion of the dog. And it's the big thing right now. And I think it's kind of like the grain-free thing. They're always trying to find things that will help the dog more and more. I don't think, probiotics are obviously not a bad thing because they increase gut health and stuff like that. But think about how the probiotics are derived, where they're coming from, how they're processed and all that, and think about how a natural raw diet really does contain all the natural nutrients that the dog needs. Guys, I love you guys very much. Thank you so much for being here. Give the video a bunch more thumbs up. Head out. If you're a member of my site, go to the member section now. I'll be doing another live chat there for 30 more minutes talking about everything. Just talking about all kinds of different stuff. But I got to end this now because I'm going to run late to get in there. So thank you for tuning in. Check out robertcabral.com, my member section, for all the best dog training, lessons, advice, podcasts, and everything that are not available anywhere else. And thanks for being here, and I'll see you really soon. Take care.